Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is our. No, let it be open. Let people come. Oh. Okay, sure. Yeah. Yeah. Souvenirtje. Het zal wat gebeurd zijn. Heel smal. Ja. Oké. Ja, bedankt. En tot ziens. Ja, hartelijk dank. Het was een leuk weekend. Nogmaals, aan de tv-ploeg. Het was
we filmen straks nog één shot.
Je gaat nog één shot doen, hè?
Ja, maar dat doen we vanuit de deur, want het is gewoon te druk. Anders.
Maar het kan ook, we kunnen wel wat mensen naar je naast sturen, gewoon. Dat is oké.
Ja, jullie houden nu nog een half uur in het Engels?
Ja.
En dan komen we nog even terug.
Oké.
Neem ik nog even ook af.
Doen we. Ja,
dank
goed.
u.
Pure devotional service is is what we desire. It is nice if we are in the mode of goodness. It is nice when on the physical plane we are living in harmony with nature. It is nice when we have inner peace, and it is nice when we know what to do and what not to do, what to eat, what not to eat, and if we sleep properly and bathe properly, it is nice. But it still doesn't fix material life, because material life has some fundamental problems: janma, mrityu, jara, vyadi, birth, death, old age, and disease. Therefore, the mode of goodness is good while we're living in this world, but it's not really fixing the material world. Therefore, something more is needed than the mode of goodness, and that has to be transcendental, and that is about bhakti, that is about devotional service and making the connection with Krishna. That connection with Krishna, which we're trying to make, that takes quite some effort, because Anadi Bahya Mukha, since time immemorial, we have been in the material world, and as a result, we have become so much dependent on the material energy that automatically we are always preoccupied with matter. And to think of Krishna is at this stage a little artificial for us. It is said, though, that at one point Krishna consciousness awakens naturally. It is just like walking. You know, a child in the beginning can't walk. And the child is crawling, and then it has to practice, and it will fall over. And then eventually, you know, the child is not only walking, it starts running. Right? And then kids only run, you know, they never walk. That's how it is. But it takes practice. And but it is a natural thing. So the same with Krishna consciousness or bhakti. It's a natural thing within the heart, but because we have been involved with the material energy for too long, we need to again reawaken it. And therefore in the beginning stages, the point is cultivation. So in the beginning we practice bhakti in cultivation, bhakti anushilanam. And this bhakti anushilanam or bhakti in cultivation is about having an environment which helps us to remember Krishna. Smartavyam satatam Vishnu vismartavyo najata sitsa vignise eva eva kinkara. All the positive injunctions, all the prohibitions in the Vedas are meant for one purpose only: to always remember Krishna and to never forget him. And that is really the essence, right? Because yes, that's what it's about. It's not about the Lizzie Anzingstraat. It's not about Amsterdam. It's not about the reputation of Amsterdam. When you drive into Amsterdam, and you come over the A2 and you go under the viaduct, then there's a sign and it says Lustoord, right? And it says like, in other words, place. What is oord? Oord is a place of lust, right? That's what this. That's the sign as you enter into the city. Like, okay, they try to keep their reputation, right? And but it's no matter. Lust will never be satisfied. That is an old song. Can't get no satisfaction. It's an old song. The Rolling Stones, and they tried very hard, and everybody else also tried. We also tried very hard to enjoy our senses. Most of us have only taken to spiritual life because materially it didn't work out. If it would have worked out, we probably would have never made it here. If everything would have been really, really wonderful, we would still be out there doing it. But because somehow or other, the material energy gave us a few punches, a few kicks, and a few this and that, and I'm still alive. And it's just, somehow or other survived it and came here. Definitely. Everyone has a story to tell, undoubtedly. And it is sometimes very interesting to hear all the stories, how and why people became devotees. And the true story, it's like, the true story is never as beautiful as the polished story, but actually the true story is more beautiful than the polished story. I saw once a version of a film about Prabhupada, and then the filmmaker took a artistic license. And at one point, there's Prabhupada, he's preaching in the West, and then there's Kali, and then Prabhupada raises his hand, and then some Shakti comes from his hand, and Kali is just like, Haribol. Thank you. And Prabhupada is just chasing away Kali, by the Shakti from his hand. But that is like, and I guess the movie maker thought it was far out, but we think it's minimizing Prabhupada, right? Because like, come on, that's not Prabhupada. Prabhupada just did it by chanting Hare Krishna. He did it by standing under the tree in Tompkins Square Park and starting kirtan, public kirtan there. And then from there, it spread all over the world. That's how Prabhupada did it. Prabhupada went to this old broken farm there somewhere, and called it New Vrindavan, and it became New Vrindavan on the spot. Just by calling it New Vrindavan, it became New Vrindavan. It became Vrindavan. How was that? Because Prabhupada invited Krishna there. And Prabhupada instructed the devotees to worship Krishna there. And as we are worshipping Krishna, Vrindavan is manifest. Like, we are here, it looks like we are in Jagannath Puri at the moment with, with Gaurnitai, right, who Nityananda must be visiting Lord Chaitanya in Puri, and he doesn't want to leave. That's quite normal. But we know that, that if one day, Hare Krishna, if one day Lord Nityananda will not be on the altar anymore and Lord Chaitanya will be alone, then you know that Lord Chaitanya sent Nityananda to Bengal to preach. Right? Hari Hari. Yes. That is what we read when we are entering into the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the purports of the Adi Lila, Srila Prabhupada explains that when Krishna appears, Krishna is not just appearing alone, he brings the whole Dham with him. Right? When we travel, we bring also some luggage, and some people as much as possible. Right? But so this tendency to bring more luggage than you are allowed is quite common. But Krishna, he doesn't have that problem because there are no luggage restrictions. When he comes, he brings the whole spiritual world with him in the temple, right there. So the deity on the altar brings the Dham. So actually the Dham is present here, yes, in the temple. And that's how this little space, which is part of some community center, right, has been transformed into the spiritual world, and the potency is present. Anyway, so our point was to, in Dutch, initially I gave a little introduction and I spoke about making the connection with Krishna in bhakti. But what we really want to do is make that connection deep. That is what it's about. Yes, it's very auspicious if anyone makes the connection with Krishna. And, you know, the whole neighborhood has made the connection with Krishna. They didn't want it, but they did anyway. And it's like that, you know. Krishna comes into our life, and then the connection is made. But in the beginning, it's agyata sukriti, unknown spiritual benefit. Just like here, yeah, you just live in a street, and suddenly the Hare Krishnas are there too, and that changes everything. Yeah, it changes everything. It's quite amazing. In New York, there's a Hare Krishna place right next to the Hells Angels. And yeah, but they're friends with us. But there is a bench in front of their place. Don't sit on that bench. They don't like that. But otherwise, yes. So, what to do? But there was also in the early days. The devotees in the Hells Angels, they had an old connection, yeah, because the Hells Angels, they were also part of the whole era, you know, the hippie era, and so they knew each other from San Francisco, and then the devotees went to London, and then after some time the Hells Angels also came to London, and they stayed with the devotees because they were the only people they knew from LA, from San Francisco. And as old friends, and they were there in the Avalon concert, the ballroom concert where Prabhupada was, and where you know, the Grateful Dead and other bands played, and then the Hells Angels were the security guards. So all kinds of relationships. So something is there, right? Something is there. Yeah. In Amsterdam, we also had our Hells Angel, by the way. Yes, and his name was Peter, and Lord Despair, right? And he would come into the street, that's the other one, from Hillegaardstraat, and he'd come into the street on his bike, and you could hear him coming, you know? It was really loud and very fast. You hear this motorbike coming in the street, you know, he's coming. And then he had this black face mask and a German helmet, right? And only the eyes were sitting with red rings around it, you know? Just like Krishna sometimes. Anyway, and then he came in, and he would say he wanted cheese sabji. He'd been there before, and he wanted cheese sabji. We had to give. I was friends with him. He also had a car, and it was an army camouflage car, and he used to come sometimes in the car. And one day we went on Harinam, and he followed us. And as we went on Harinam, and as we crossed the street, there was a car that was aggressive and trying to drive into us. And next moment, from nowhere, someone flew through the sky. It was Peter. And he landed with his heavy motorbike boots on that car. And then he walked over the car. Crack, 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 crack. And jumped off. Gave the guy a good look. And that was it. And that was devotional service. Agyata Sukriti. Because he protected the devotees. Yes. So it comes in all kinds of ways. There was this vegetable storage here in Amsterdam, and the guy used to throw rotten tomatoes at us. And later he started to donate vegetables. And it's like, it goes like that. So devotional service begins unknowingly, and then at one point we make the conscious choice. And that's where we make sambandha, the connection. But that's not enough. We have to go deeper. We have to go deeper and make a real connection, a deep connection. Yes. And where we say, yes, Krishna, I know everything belongs to you. Everything. Everything is only there for your purpose. Every situation, in every situation, you are the center. In every situation, you are the only thing that is important. Now, that takes quite some adjustment. See, we're used to like, okay, in the temple, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, with lots of devotees. Then we go outside, and then we are the center again. Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's we do some devotional service, and then we take a break. Now we deserve some sense enjoyment. I did half an hour service, and I can at least an hour of sense enjoyment, or I did a whole day of service, and I can have a whole week, in Maya. So it is a matter of building up our spiritual life and bringing it to that point of going deeper, of just offering more, and just spending all our time with Krishna. Chanting more, serving more, hearing more, right? That's the idea. Just to sum up over time. It is not like that, in the beginning it's okay. Just yat karosi, yat asnasi, yat johosi, dadasi, yat whatever you do, whatever you offer, whatever austerities you perform, whatever you eat, do it all for me. In other words, live your life and offer it to Krishna as good as you can. A few things have to go, the unedibles, and a few others, but for the rest, basically live your life and connect it with Krishna. But this is still in the realm of sambandha. Right? So sambandha is the first stage of devotional service, making connection. And that includes, really, it includes everything up to anartha nivritti. That's all sambandha. So when we go from the initial faith, shraddha, and then we come to making connection with devotees, sadhu sangha, when we are carrying on and we are coming to bhajana kriya, the regulated process, we start to chant, we start to bow down in the temple, do all these things, right? And then the purification of the heart takes place. And as the purification takes place, we come to the next stage, nistha. So up to nistha is all making sambandha. It's all about getting the connection. Yeah? Therefore, at that stage, we are known as kanistha, weak, one that have weak faith, weak conviction. We want to be Krishna conscious, but there's also so many other things in the world, And it's good. It's good. And, you wouldn't want to miss out. You wouldn't want to be old and regret. Regret. When you were young and beautiful and all renounced, and then you're older, then you think, why did I do that? The best years of my life. Well. Yes, such thoughts, they come. But that is all because the sambandha hasn't been really made strong. The connection hasn't been made strong. If we make the connection strong and get serious about purification, then we can come to Nistha. Prabhupada said Nistha is 60-70% purified. It means more purified, more attracted to Krishna than to matter. Also attracted to Maya, but more to Krishna. Therefore, in Nistha, one can easily naturally say, no, I'm not interested, even although some attraction is there. But just like, a stupid example, but early in the morning, you walk through the city and you're hungry, it's cold. And you walk past the baker and suddenly you get water in your mouth, Natural, demon. That bread is not vegetarian. How can you get water in your mouth for bread that is not vegetarian? Okay, let them do it. If they want to close it, let them close it.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Go ahead, do it.
The camera crew is asking you.
Open or close? What do you want?
Open it for ventilation.
Yeah, it's good. It's healthy. It takes out COVID. Windows open. This is very good. The more the better. Well, it's handy when you're tall. That's what you see. She wants that one also. Oh. Hij doet het. Hij gaat het. Jij gaat het. Ja, gelukt. Oké. Ja, dat is goed.
I'm so sorry.
Nee, het is oké. Okay. Now I know where I am. I'm just closing up the Sambandha thing. I'm going to Nistha. Nistha, where we are firm in our determination, where we're more attracted to Krishna than to Maya, although we're attracted to both. It is at that stage that we can get serious about bhakti, to really get into bhakti. So Nistha is the stage where we get into abhideya, into the process of bhakti, and still a process. Bhakti has two sides to it, sadhana and sadhya. Sadhana is the practice and sadhya is the goal. So bhakti in the goal, we're going to discuss it in a moment, but we're still in bhakti in practice, still in cultivation. So even in Nistha, we're still in bhakti in cultivation, but now more serious, more absorbed. And so we get more and more absorbed. And then the result is that we start to get more and more taste. Now taste was there from day one. Pakoras tasted good, some taste for kirtan, taste was there. But when taste becomes predominant, when that takes the foreground in our life, that's ruchi. And when there's ruchi, taste, then we are just always serving Krishna and relishing. So then spiritual life becomes very blissful. So when there's taste, then spiritual life is full of happiness. It's very satisfying. So this is the stage. It says that up to Nistha, it's like taking an old broken car which you have to push up a mountain. When you're at Nistha, you're on top of the mountain. At Ruchi, the car starts freewheeling down. Yeah. Without any resistance. Jump in, guys, let's go. Yes, bhakti's on the road. And then we will experience how in bhakti gradually our taste becomes deeper. As taste becomes deeper and goes deep within the heart, it becomes deep attachment. Then it becomes ashakti. In ashakti, Prabhupada says you become so deeply attached to Krishna and so focused on Krishna. You're in this world, but your focus is not this world. Your focus is the spiritual world, the world of Krishna. You're walking around here, you're dealing with things, but it's totally unimportant. What is really happening, it's not happening here. And it's not really happening here. It's happening in the spiritual world. And the only thing that's happening here is what is descending from the spiritual world. Chanting of the holy name, the deities, prasadam, those things descend from the spiritual world. Otherwise, nothing happening in Amsterdam. Nothing happening. Right? Nothing happening in Holland, nothing happening on planet Earth, nothing on Mars either. Nothing, nothing happening in the universe, actually. It's all happening in the spiritual world. So in Ashakti, the focus goes there, to the spiritual world, naturally. I have an example. Now, you have to have good eyes, then you can see. Now, if you take a step, my fingers are now becoming legs. If you take a step, here you are, you put one leg forward, and the weight stays on the leg at the back. Then you lean the body a bit forward, you put the weight towards the other leg, and slowly you lift this first leg. Yeah? So this is the material leg. In the beginning, all the weight is on the material leg. We're practicing spiritual life, but all the weight of our consciousness is on the material leg. Then we stretch out to spiritual life, and gradually the weight begins to change. At Nista, the weight begins to change on the spiritual side, and slowly the weight is diminished. At Ruchi, our material leg is coming off the front of the ground, and we're beginning to stand on our spiritual leg, and it goes up, and our whole body goes forward, until we're almost floating in the sky. Anyway, the idea of a step. So gradually our consciousness shifts from being in the material world and serving Krishna to being in the spiritual world internally and serving Krishna. And only the body is still in the material world, but our consciousness in the spiritual world. At that stage, in Ashakti, one begins to develop an interest in an eternal relationship with Krishna, in one of the 5 rasas. That goes deeper and stronger in bhava, in a particular mood, until one gets a particular sthai bhava, a particular fixed bhava, a particular fixed ecstasy. And so one is in the mood of a cowherd boy, or a cowherd girl, or a cowherd parent, or a cow, or whatever. All these things are possible. And so, and gradually, love will awaken. And then as one is approaching Prem, it is called Premarurukshu. And then the Varanadasa, the 11 symptoms of a spiritual identity become manifest to us. At that stage, we begin to know to what family we belong in the spiritual world. We begin to know our family. We begin to know our name. We begin to know our service. And so we have an eternal family. Yeah. So no need to stay in the material world to take care of your family, because you have another family that's waiting for you there. And is waiting for us to return. So do not worry. So whatever good we have in the material world, know that that is the reflection of something better in the spiritual world. So whatever is really good here, it exists in its original better form in the spiritual world. Who knows? In the material world, I'll give one example and then I'll end. When I was a kid, I was growing up, started to play guitar, and I was really into it, and I wanted to therefore have a professional recorder, because I want a studio at home, right? So I had convinced my grandmother, because I knew my father wouldn't give it to me, but my grandmother, I convinced her, and I'd given everything, all the specifications, the serial numbers, this, that. Then, and it was all lined up, and I was going to get it on my birthday, right? Then my father interfered, And he said, no, this is not necessary. And he bought one model a little cheaper. That didn't have all the things I needed, to have a real professional studio. So it's just so annoying. So annoying. And it stands as a symbol for material life. The dream is this big, and then reality is like, it's not quite what the dream was offering us. But the spiritual world is just the opposite. Reality is exceeding what we can dream. And the proof of the pudding is in the story of Dhruva Maharaj, which I will not tell now because... but what he got was greater than what he could have imagined. So, when we imagine the greatest, then know that what is there on the platform of praying in the spiritual world is still greater. Still greater. And with that we can get some enthusiasm to try for it. So let us go through these steps. And this is then known as Sambandha, making the connection, Abhideya, making the real commitment to the process of attaining perfection, and then Prayojana, attaining perfection, realizing the spiritual world and our eternal relationship with Krishna, with an ever-increasing relationship of love of God. Radharani, Adilila chapter 4, is saying that there is a competition between Krishna's qualities and her love. And each time when she finds a new quality in Krishna, and as soon as she discovers it, she loves that quality also. And in this way, her love is growing. And then she finds yet another quality in Krishna. And then her love embraces that also. And in this way, Radharani's love is eternally growing. And not only Radharani, but our love also. And it's already started. We already love more qualities of Krishna now than we used to. Yes, very good. Okay, so any questions or any comments, then you may please present. Anji.
Just popped into my mind. Is there married life in spiritual life?
Oh yes, there is. Eternal. Yeah, you can be married forever. Yeah. And even if you're married in this world, you can bring your wife back also. Yeah.
I think she'll bring me back.
Also possible. Somebody's going to bring somebody back, or you can go together. Yeah.
There is married life in the spiritual world, but is it also, how does it go with if you're a gopi or a gopa? Is it necessary that you also have children?
In the spiritual world, yes, there are, but children are not children. Children only exist in that form in the material world. Crying babies and all that. Only in the material world. In the spiritual world, there are no crying babies. And there's no kids. They're all youth. They're all youth. And of course, Nanda and Yasoda, they look at Krishna as a youth and they think he's a kid. They treat him as a kid. Yeah, he's just a boy. But he's a youth, an eternal youth. And the gopis are just also eternal youth. Kashori. So all the Kishoris and Kishori. So no kids. Yeah. So if you want to have kids, you have to have them here. It's the only chance. Yeah. But here they cry. also. Yeah. Not that there's no crying in the spiritual world, but that is ecstatic crying. Prabhupada says cold tears, not the tears of distress. Of course, tears of ecstasy. Now, of course, there's also something that looks like distress when Krishna leaves and the gopis are in separation, and it looks like distress. But it's that immediately they remember Krishna with such intensity, and then that remembrance is so fulfilling that they immediately turn into ecstasy. So this is the thing, separation immediately increases remembrance, and therefore separation immediately leads to ecstasy.
You were talking about your family in the spiritual world.
In the spiritual world, that's
And then I was thinking, how is it related to your relationship with your spiritual master?
I couldn't hear the last because of the
How
last.
is it related with your connection with the spiritual master? Is that in that family connection? Because we are supposed to be Manjaris and that line of Manjari gurus.
Not necessarily that the spiritual master is always in the same rasa. We have, of course, the example of Hridaya Chaitanya and Shyamananda, who are in different rasas. The spiritual masters in Sakya Ras and the disciple in Madhurya.
Yeah.
So it's not always the same. In that case, the spiritual master is still there in the spiritual world, but you may not serve Krishna together. But one always knows this and this person is my spiritual master, and this and I'm eternally indebted to this person. So that will remain, that sense of indebtedness. But it may not be that you serve side by side necessarily. Prabhupada also said the spiritual master takes us by the hand and then brings us to Krishna and leaves us there. So sometimes serving together in the spiritual world, sometimes not. Yeah. Therefore, some disciples of Prabhupada, they have this desire to be reunited with Prabhupada. Right? And and that's how they're thinking, like joining Prabhupada. I would also like to, join Prabhupada if I could, in some universe somewhere. Some people say Prabhupada went back to Godhead, some people say he's in another universe. I think he did both. That's what I think.
The spiritual master has to come back to deliver his disciples that didn't make it,
Or he can send a messenger.
or he can send a messenger.
Mm.
So that's why you could be either with him or without, not
Mm.
serving with him.
Chintamani is a story about the prostitute Bilvamangala Thakur who reawakened his Krishna consciousness. So she was an agent.
So besides the connection,
Take the thing off.
besides the connection with the spiritual master, you also have a separate family connection.
Yes.
That's what I understand now.
Yes. Yeah, you belong. Like we see the whole thing, how Sarup, right, is Gopakumar, and he comes to the spiritual world, and then he is part of the family related to Srimati Radharani's family, of a branch of her family, of the extended family, the big extended family. So he's within that line. So therefore Krishna treats him like that. So when Radharani has cooked sweets, right, then she presents to Krishna. Krishna has invited Sarup, he saw him. He brought him home, and Sarup is sitting right next to him to take prasadam. And then Krishna is tasting the sweets Radharani made, and he makes a real face like something's really wrong with him. And he just throws him on the plate of Sarup and said, look what your family member made. Right? And then Sarup is tasting it, and it's nectar. You know, like meanwhile Mother Yasoda is looking, what did you do? Did you put salt or did you put soap in the sweets? You know, what happened? Yeah. Looks angry at Radharani. But Sarup is getting the Maha from Krishna, and it's nectar. Yeah, but he throws it on that plate because he's in the family lineage of Radharani. Look what your family member did. Priya Bhagavatamrita Sanatana Goswami. It's 5 o'clock, so we're ending, and we thank you very, very much for being with us here this Sunday. Hope you enjoyed it all in Dutch and in English. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Okay, I'm going to say goodbye to the TV and YouTube.
They're going to do one more shot for the Garati also.
Okay.
They want to film.
Okay, that's good.
His Holiness Kadamba Kanana Maharaj ki.
But I'm going to do it.